This is Zen'n'ish.
Hello, this is Dr. Kiki, and today we will be talking with Mr. Chris James. And Mr. James is a wellness coach who specializes in holistic health with an emphasis on fasting and hydration. So welcome, Mr. James. It's so great to have you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. I appreciate being here.
So today we're going to be talking about fasting. And there's so much information out there about what fasting is and what fasting isn't and the right and wrong way to do it. So we're hoping for a little clarity today on fasting and what it can do for the body. So let's jump into the basics. Like, can you help us define what fasting is?
Yes, we're gonna be super clear on this. Fasting is simply put refraining from eating or drinking. You're not going to put anything in your mouth. That is what fasting is. Now, there's a multitude of different forms of fasting where people add water. So that's called water fasting. And then so on and so forth. As you add different things, you kind of classify it differently. But the bare bones is no food, no water.
Great. And you actually touched on where I want to go next. What are the different types of fasting out there?
That's a we could probably go on and on for a while
Right.
with that. Some of the more popular fasts would be juice fasting, which is where you just consume juice and water. And typically these are, fruits and vegetables. Then you could do a liquid fast, which would include like soups, just anything in a liquid form. Mm-hmm. And then you've got dry fasting, which is technically like real fasting. They just call it dry because we do, water fasting nowadays is the popular thing. But dry fasting is what you would consider the traditional fast, which is no food or water. Mm-hmm. And then you've got intermittent fasting, which is very popular right now. It's really popular among fitness professionals and people teaching, about bodybuilding, where you pretty much choose a block of time in your day where you're not going to consume food. So, oftentimes people choose a 16-hour window of time. That's like the most popular. Mm-hmm. And you can include the time that you sleep. So you could cheat a little bit.
Right.
And then the other portion of your day you can eat. So in that example, you'd have 8 hours to eat. Mm-hmm. And then you have alternate day fasting, which is how it sounds. You alternate. So you do 24-hour fasts every other day. Oh, okay. You've got one meal a day, which is OMAD. And that's pretty popular. I think it's a really good method where you just eat one meal per day. And each fast has its own kind of benefit and focus. And then there's another type of fast that I kind of came up with, me and my brother, and we call it hybrid fasting. And that's really a combination of 2 or 3 different fasting techniques that you use in tandem to help you kind of complete a prolonged fast.
So you talk about the benefits, each one having different benefits. So what are some of the benefits of fasting?
Well, okay, as a blanket statement, people always ask me, Chris, what I have this disease or this problem. Can fasting help with this? And my answer is almost always yes. Fasting, the power of fasting comes from allowing the body to rest and take the energy that it would typically, use towards digesting food and other processes to heal. So it helps with pretty much everything. But some of the highlights, number one would be weight loss. It is probably the healthiest, most efficient way to lose weight. You don't have to add any pills or anything extra to it. The body just has this amazing way of, detoxifying and releasing all of that excess weight.
Mm.
My brother, what really got us into fasting was my brother was diagnosed with prediabetes, and the doctor told him that in 3 months he needed to come back to see her because she was going to start his medication. And I thought that was crazy. I was just like, man, so you're not technically diabetic yet, even though he was showing, a lot of the symptoms. But there was no plan to stop him from becoming diabetic. It was just like, yeah, you're going to be a diabetic and this is what your medicine is going to look like.
Right. Yeah.
So we were able to actually completely stop that diabetic progression in his tracks. He's no longer pre-diabetic. We've reversed all of the symptoms that he was feeling. So he was dealing with, some impotency. He had sleep apnea. He had some nerve issues. I just so many different issues that he had that we were able to deal with. I've had, I don't know how specific we can get. I've had individuals with fibromyalgia report that they had been in pain every single day for 18 years. And by adopting a regular fasting regimen, and of course we coupled the fasting with dietary strategy as well. But finally, she was able to experience a pain-free life. So we've had multiple women in our group who were infertile. The doctors told them that they can't have children, or her and her partner had been trying to have children for 3 years, 10 years. Even my sister was told that she was infertile. And all of these women have reported either becoming pregnant or being able to conceive. So the sky's the limit, it seems like. It's probably an easier question to ask what fasting doesn't help with.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And, I will say that I am a fan of fasting. I've been doing it for many years now. And I also do what is called extended fasting. And the clarity I have after 7 days, 10 days, I've heard it referred to a lot as brain fog. It's just lifted. Like, I love that euphoria. Like, there hasn't been a match to it. Like, I feel like I can save the world when I complete an extended fast. I definitely know in my own life the benefits of fasting. I want to ask this because I see the question a lot in your group, a healthy alternative, and just in fasting groups and talks in general. So people ask, will this break my fast? Will that break my fast? What are some common things that people ask about breaking? Will it break a fast? And is it a yes or no on those?
Common thing. That question is one of them questions where, I've had people ask, will drinking, alcohol break their fast? So it's hard to know when people are being serious.
Right.
But, some of the valid questions are taking taking vitamins. Can you take vitamins on the fast? Will that affect the fast? Can I drink carbonated water? That's a pretty popular one. People tend to want to, drink carbonated water, or, can I put lemon in my water?
Yes.
I just recently was asked, can I put chia seeds in my water? Can I have tea during my fast? A lot of people actually assume that they can just have coffee or whatever else on their fast. Some people ask. I've I've had people ask me, can they chew gum? And Another one I actually got a lot, and I actually recently got it, was, can I brush my teeth on my fast?
Mm.
So I get a wide variety of questions about, what you can have on your fast, what you can't have. There's so many people disseminating information, and it gets very confusing, and people don't know who to trust, who's correct.
Right.
So I'll do my best to be clear and kind of blunt with this.
Mm-hmm.
What you're allowed to have on your fast is going to be determined by the type of fast you're doing.
Right.
So as we spoke earlier, if you're doing a dry fast or a true fast, right, where you're not drinking or eating,
Mm-hmm.
then you can't consume anything. You can't consume anything. Okay. That will break your fast. If you are doing a water fast, then you don't drink anything, or you don't add anything to your water. You don't have herbs or tea or coffee. You just drink water, because that's a water fast, and that's
Right.
right. Now, if you're doing a liquid fast, and this is the reason why I made the distinction between a water and a liquid fast, then you could do coffee, and you could do tea, and you could do broths. There's a wide variety of things that you could take in a liquid form.
Right.
And once again, there's varying levels of benefits. So, just to kind of give you maybe a frame of reference,
Mm-hmm.
if let's say your goal was weight loss, because I know that's like one of the most popular topics.
Mm-hmm.
If you were doing a dry fast, you could experience weight loss ranging from 3 to 4 pounds a day on average. It's really, really powerful for weight loss.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you were to do a water fast, that average goes from 3 to 4 pounds down to 1 to 2 pounds, depending on the duration of the fast.
Right.
Okay. If you were to do a juice fast, then that goes down from 2 to 3 pounds a day, or 1 to 2 pounds a day, down to half a pound to a pound a day.
Mm-hmm.
And so you could see, the more you add to your fast, the less effective it is.
Exactly.
And that's across the board. So if you're looking to, reverse some disease, or, whatever whether it's mental
Your health.
clarity,
Yeah.
whatever it is, everything is going to kind of be reduced by whatever you consume, because the power of fasting, the benefit comes from allowing the digestive system to rest.
Talking about dry fasting. Now, I've heard that there needs to be a couple limitations on how long you do that. Could you speak to that?
Okay. Dry fasting is, the key to dry fasting is really in the preparation.
Mm-hmm.
The goal in prepping for a dry fast is hydration. You really have to become well hydrated, because obviously you're not going to be drinking water. And so what really limits the length that you could do a dry fast safely is going to be based on how hydrated you are.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the reason why my emphasis is on hydration is because oftentimes we think drinking water equals hydration, and that's just simply not true. The water that we consume nowadays is so extremely different from getting water from a natural source. Just the molecule size of the water. Most of the times we're drinking bottled water and tap water. This is called bulk water. So the water cannot penetrate into the cells. You're not hydrating unless you're getting water into the cells. So learning about techniques, how to actually hydrate, that allows you to do longer dry fasting sessions.
Mm-hmm.
But for someone who isn't, either hasn't done any prep work, or has done very little prep work, or just wants to try it and is not really sure, you probably shouldn't be doing anything more than 24 hours to about, I would say, 72 hours at the most.
Okay.
I mean, that's really way more than what you need to be doing. If you've done some prep work, you're hydrated well, still keeping it reasonable. I mean, 6 days, that's a pretty intense dry fast.
Yeah.
Because you the thing about dry fasting, what separates it from water fasting or anything else, is the intensity at which your body releases toxicity. The actual dry fast itself tends to be easier to do because you don't get the hunger pangs, because your digestive system is just, completely at rest. But you do get heavy detox symptoms. And of course, you could experience a wide variety of detox symptoms, and that can become dangerous. I guess my biggest concern would be like fainting. And, if you're doing something at the time and you just kind of, your blood pressure gets too low or whatever the case may be, and you faint, then that could be dangerous. So you just have to be careful. But there have been people, if I'm just speaking frankly, there's people who have dry fasted for much longer than, 6 days. I had a guest on the show who would do 10-day dry fasts.
Oh, wow.
And now he was 400 pounds. And so, one of the things that allows people to fast longer is having so much excess body fat, because the body will utilize that as a resource if it needs to. So I guess one point to understand is that if you are smaller, if you don't have as much excess body fat, then you want to definitely keep your dry fast shorter.
Okay. You talked about detox syndrome, or symptoms, I should say. And I've heard some people, you're like, oh, I can't do a fast because, I feel bad, immediately. So, my doctor said, don't do a fast. What are some common detox symptoms that you should expect? Like, it's not a sign that, you need to stop fasting. These are things that just happen when you fast, especially if you're beginning. So your body's starting to get rid of a lot of different things.
Yeah, good question. Detox symptoms are far ranging as well, because what an individual person has experienced is going to kind of determine how you detox, how quickly, and what you experience. Some of the common detox symptoms would be headaches, vomiting, diarrhea, dizziness, especially like when you kind of stand up too fast, you feel a little dizzy or off balance. I mean, depending on the individual, and I don't want to scare anybody, but this does happen. Hair fall can certainly happen. And, one thing that I usually tell people is that when that does happen due to fasting, the hair does come back. It does grow back. But when you shock your system, by doing a fast and maybe not doing the prep work and not laying a foundation for it, yeah, sometimes the body reacts that way. You can experience, there is this thing that people call fasting insomnia.
Yeah.
Now, I look at it as a good thing, because I believe that everything in life is really all about perspective. But you get this extra energy. You mentioned the clarity, but oftentimes people experience this energy that kind of goes along with the clarity as well. And you can't sleep at night. So people are like, oh, I have insomnia. And it's just, they want to take melatonin and they want to take something. But it's like, no, your body just has a surplus of energy, because it uses so much energy to digest food. Oftentimes when people very first start fasting, they get to kind of benefit from that excess energy. And I just say, put it to work, do something productive. You just regain 2 extra hours out of your day.
Right.
So
my attic is almost a completed meditation room now because of the extra energy that I'm experiencing. I know that when I do extended fasts, and usually I do it within the care of a fasting facility.
Mhm.
Um, I sometimes get what's called like a fasting rash, where
Yep.
your body is just kind of getting rid of toxins, and its biggest organ is skin. So
Mhm.
you get rid of a lot of things, and I personally haven't experienced it, but um, I've been at a retreat where someone has had like they call it like a healing crisis, or the emotional part. A lot of
Mm.
times that fasting is not only a purging of, toxins within the body, but also toxins of the mind, like mental, the clarity, the extra energy, and your mind starts to process and your body begins to process some of the emotional aspects. And so that can happen. And now that I think about it, there was one time I was fasting, and I received some acupuncture for my lower back,
Mhm.
and I finished. I was fine. I went and I was having a conversation with the director of the center, and I said, "Hold on a minute." I said, I think I'm gonna cry," and she was like, "Okay," and I cried like ugly cried for like 5 minutes. And I was
Nice.
like, "I am so sorry. I don't even know what that is." And she was like, "It happens sometimes. Your body is releasing, and it's like, well, since we're getting rid of stuff,
Right.
get rid of this."
Yeah.
So that can happen as well. And it's not something that's bad. It's, your body purging things that it doesn't need. So it can actually be
Yeah.
liberating.
I wanted to speak on both points, the rash and the mental purging.
Mhm.
Starting with the rash. So, like you mentioned, the skin is the largest organ, and what happens is when we don't, and this is why preparation is so key. And there's different levels to the preparation as well,
Mhm.
but by going in ahead of time and clearing the elimination pathways, we can kind of help to mitigate some of the detox symptoms, because essentially what happens is as your body is flushing the toxicity out of the fat cells and out of the different tissues in your body, if
Mhm.
it doesn't have a clear pathway out, then the body will use the skin or any method that it really has to get that stuff out, because it's got to
Right.
get rid of it.
Right.
And so people do experience some really extreme rashes. I've seen where pimples, those little whitehead pimples, popped up all over individuals' body, all over their body. So this is why when I talk about fasting, I always talk about prepping, because I can't guarantee that you won't experience something like that, because the individual who had this happen had years and years of constipation. And so
Mhm.
that causes you to hold on to a lot of toxicity. But we'll do our best to help mitigate that sort of thing. But it's perfectly um, normal or common, I should say.
Yeah.
And the best thing you could do is leave it alone. That healing crisis that happens and causes people to have this flush of emotion.
Mhm.
It's so powerful, because essentially you don't even need to know that something is wrong with you on that
Right.
level, but the body knows.
Right. Yeah.
And so without any fancy degrees or any real explanation, your body's just like, gotta let this go, gotta let that go. And what happens is this is where a lot of the core issues that we deal with come from.
Mhm.
You know, we have an energetic, a physical, and a mental being, and
Mhm.
each one of these, parts of us can be affected and traumatized. And if we only focus on one aspect, we might be experiencing a physical pain that stems from a mental trauma.
Yes.
And so this is what makes fasting so powerful as like just an overall wellness technique.
Yes. Very much so. You talked a little bit about like our current day water, and how it's vastly different from water of years gone by. So can we talk a little bit about that? Like, if I'm going to embark on a water fast, Are there waters that I should steer clear of? And are there waters that kind of stick out in your mind as superior or better waters to ingest?
Okay. All right. This is a this is is a big topic. So a couple of really simple kind of rules of thumb when it comes to water. If it comes in plastic, you don't want to be drinking it. I don't care if it's BPA free. I don't care if it's food grade plastic. I don't care what level the plastic is. You don't want to be drinking anything out of a container that is you don't know what's in the plastic.
Mm.
We're taught that like if you purchase a candy bar or some bread or whatever, a product from the store, it has an ingredient list on it, and all of the ingredients that's on the list is what's in that product. Well, it's the same thing for plastic or anything else. You're being told what's in it, but you don't actually know what's in it. You don't know how synergistically these different components that make up this product could potentially affect you. You just don't know. So you don't want anything to have the ability to leach into the water. So that's just like a good rule of thumb. Something non-porous like glass, something inert like clay or organic like a skin. These are things that you could drink out of and feel okay about. But even sometimes, glass is made with lead. It just depends. So you got to be very careful. But when one of the pitfalls that I fell into was the alkaline water. It's super popular right now.
Yes.
Everybody's talking about it. There's devices and there's all ways to manufacture it. But what they don't tell you is there's a difference between a naturally occurring higher pH water and the store-bought alkaline water. So oftentimes what they're doing is they are chemically alkalizing the water. So now you have chemicals, you have additional chemicals in the water that are raising the pH. It's like, bleach is what, like 14, 12 or 14 pH or whatever the case may be. Does that mean it's good to drink? No, we know that's not good to drink.
Right.
So if I put a little bleach in your water to raise the pH of the water, is that better water? No. And, there's a lot of things being done to the bottled waters that you just simply do not know. So if you're going to purchase water from a store in that form, I would say definitely go for glass. Do your best to purchase something that is as pure as possible. So my recommendation is distilled, because there's nothing in the water by your definition. If it's distilled, there's nothing in the water. A secondary option would be to get distilled water in a plastic container, because number two, or, like I said before, there's nothing in the water. So if you're going to get something out of a plastic container, at least start with nothing in the water. You know what I mean? Water's kind of like a sponge. It's like if you fill a sponge up with all sorts of whatever bad stuff, it's gonna hold on to it, and then when the person comes to drink it or brings that sponge out, all that stuff gets left, right? But if the sponge is empty, so in the case of like distilled water where the sponge is empty, there's nothing in it, then the water has the ability to go into your system and collect contamination out of your system, not leaving anything behind, but taking bad stuff out. And so it has that cleansing ability.
That makes sense.
So the best way to get your water, in my opinion, is to manufacture it at home, which, sounds like a lot of work, but it's not. And then once you get everything kind of in order, it's really simple. So I got a distiller so that I could distill my tap water. That saves me a little bit of money, because once again, if you're distilling it, you're taking everything out of it. Reverse osmosis is also good. It takes out mostly everything. And then from that point, I will typically run my water through a water structuring device. This device literally just mimics water tumbling down a mountain or in a river.
Oh.
And that motion is what energizes the water, aerates the water, and it helps to reduce the molecule size so that it can be absorbed into the body. Then I put the water in a clear glass jar and I set it out in the sun, and I let the sun energize the water, furthering that process of, reducing the molecular structure of the water and also adding all of that good energy from the sun.
Mm-hmm.
The beautiful thing about water is it has nearly an infinite capacity for storage. So there's this idea or theory that water has memory. It's called water memory.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially water is a crystalline structure. So it has the ability to absorb information. And this is vibration and frequency.
Mm-hmm.
And so anything that the water comes in contact with, it remembers it. And so by taking it through this process, you're able to essentially reformat the water or erase all of the memory, whatever is on it. And that includes, drugs and medications and, all kinds of stuff that we find in our tap water, rocket fuel. I mean, all kinds of crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then the sun further breaks down any inorganic materials or compounds, and it releases it and allows you to experience water in a form that most of us haven't. We don't do this. We don't drink our water from a natural body, so we don't get to experience this. And it is transformative. It really is. The very first time I took my water through this process, I was on a long fast, so my taste buds were very sensitive. And I was able to taste a faint sweetness in my water. It blew my mind.
Cool.
So that's the process I take my water through. It may sound extreme. It may sound like this guy's crazy, but at the end of the day, hydration or dehydration, the lack of hydration, is one of the core issues that causes so much disease in the body.
Right.
I've been able to help people who had chronic headaches, were so jacked up that they couldn't go out in the sunlight because it would make them nauseous and, dizzy and all this. And we just put them on distilled water for, 30 days. Not even a fast. We just removed all the other liquids, put them on distilled water, and they cleared up that issue that they had been dealing with for 10 years. So
that's powerful.
Water is important.
Yeah. So these mechanisms for purifying the water, excuse me, did you get these like on Amazon? Like where could they get these devices?
Okay. So the distiller, I did get off Amazon. They're really popular. You can find them. I think you can even pick them up at the local department stores. But one thing I will say is I did go through a couple different devices because they're not all created equally.
Right.
So what I found was you typically are going to need to buy a device that you want it to distill the water slowly. So some of them will claim to distill water in like 4 hours or 4.5 hours. You really want it to be distilling the water, maybe 5.5, 6 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for that is the contaminants in your water, as it's distilled, it's going to release the steam, and then the steam is collected into a jar. If the distiller distills it too fast, or if the distiller runs dry by the end of the process, all of the contamination will start to burn, and then it'll enter into your water as well. So you'll tell that it's not doing a good job because it will taste funny. Distilled water should taste very pure, very clean. Shouldn't really have any, kind of specific taste to it. But, I got mine off Amazon. It's a mega home distiller. I think it was a couple $100. Okay. Now you could spend more and get a better, because mine is certainly not the highest quality. You could get a better. You get the in-house distillers that are designed to distill for the entire house. There's many different options, but I would just say spend a little extra now. You'll save that money because, you spend 30 cents to $1 on a bottle of water, depending on how you buy it. So you'll end up saving that. The water structuring devices, I actually, I became affiliated with a company called the Wellness Enterprise that is a hub for several different types of water structuring devices. And so you can get the actual devices from my website, ahealthyalternative.org, in the shop area. I do have a few of those devices there, the ones that I personally use and kind of promote. But you can also find those on Amazon and different places, that they have them available. But once again, all these devices are not created equal. So I have my recommendations for a reason. I've spent a lot of money researching this stuff, and the ones I use are the ones that I know have worked.
I want to talk a little bit about, you talked about like a hybrid type of fasting you and your brother created or came up with. Could you talk about that particular process?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're always experimenting and looking for the best ways to lose weight, or, depending on an individual's goal, whether you want to deal with mental trauma or, heal a particular disease, whatever your goal is, we're always messing around with stuff to kind of see what's the best method for fasting. And oftentimes people want to deal with energetic and mental trauma, but unfortunately, when you fast, if you just do, let's say you did an alternate day fasting schedule where you would fast one day, eat the next day, and let's say you did that for 60 days. So over the span of 60 days, you would have done 30 days of fasting. Well, unfortunately, the benefits and the power of fasting, it's you can't stack it like that. Right? So a total of 30 days every other day for 60 days, that's not the same as fasting for 30 days straight. That's two completely different things. So we were looking for a way to help people prolong their fasts, while reducing the burden, the detox symptoms, and just the overall difficulty of the fast. So what I decided to do was to combine dry fasting, juice fasting, and water fasting. And each one of these fasts play different roles and create different responses in the body. So for example, dry fasting, while it is probably the most challenging fast in the way of, just being able to do it for long durations, just because of how intense the detox symptoms become.
Right.
It's easy in the sense that if you're dealing with intense hunger pangs, like if your main issue with not being able to do a prolonged fast is just the simple fact that you get hungry, you can utilize dry fasting to help to mitigate that. Because when you dry fast, when you're not eating or drinking, the hunger pangs subside. So, now you can't do the dry fast for 30 days. That's really, really challenging to do. I don't know anybody who's done that.
Yeah.
So what you do is you kind of jump back and forth between the water and the juice in order to prolong it. So one example, or at least this is what I did. So I kind of like make this as clear as possible for people. I did a 30-day fast, hybrid fast. I did 10 days juice, 10 days water, 10 days dry. But the way that I utilized the different, fasting methods was based on how I felt. So I started off with a water fast. And then when I started to feel really kind of like the hunger pangs creeping up on me, I would then shift to a dry fast. Now you've already started with the water, so that kind of prepped you as far as hydration, making sure that you're well hydrated.
Mm-hmm.
Then you hit, 2 or 3 days of dry, and then when you start to feel like you're getting thirsty again, or the detox symptoms are just kind of becoming too intense, then you could switch back to water. Okay, you always break your dry fast with water, always, 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 and you always want to make sure that you sip your water slowly. You never want to guzzle water after a dry fast, because you literally have to give your esophagus and your body a chance to get used to drinking again.
Right.
So then you give yourself about a day of water, and then I would roll into a juice fast. And so, and when you do your juice fast, your goal is not to drink, a ton of juice. Really, what you're doing during the hybrid fast is you're supplementing with juice.
Mm-hmm.
So, you might just do like a meal replacement kind of deal, where you drink 3 16-ounce jars of juice per day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just depends. If you get to a place, you're doing your water and you're feeling kind of dizzy or faint, or maybe you just have a strenuous job and maybe you got a big project and you need to be more alert, then you switch to juice.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really understanding the benefits of each fast and how to kind of chain them together. But it makes doing a 30-day fast very, very easy. And so you get the benefits of each of these fasts and you get to prolong it.
Mm. Now, I know the answer to this, but just for clarity, can I just go into the grocery store, grab a carton of orange juice, a bottle of apple juice, and use those for my juice fast?
No, and I'm surprised that I've actually just been saying juice. So usually I make sure to say fresh squeezed juice, because people were telling me that they were fasting with Tropicana and Simply Lemon, and I was just like, oh man, like you can't. That's not real juice.
No.
No, you want fresh squeezed juice, and the reason why is because, okay, so we talked about getting the water, the molecular size, the molecule size of the water. You want to get it down. You want to get it small so it can be absorbed into the cells. But plant life already has this cellular water in it.
Mm.
So it's kind of like a shortcut. You hydrate really, really well off of plant fluid, water, juice, or whatever you might squeeze from a plant. And so that helps tremendously with the hydration. In addition to that, now if you're drinking, let's say you're drinking like orange juice, something sweet, people don't want to deal with sugar oftentimes, but there's a major distinction between natural sugar and highly refined processed sugar.
Mm-hmm.
And the refined processed sugar is what you're going to find in Tropicana and those types of products. So that will be detrimental to your fast. Whereas the natural fruit sugar that you get from, oranges and apples and things are less impacting, much less impacting. And then, of course, they give you that cellular water so that you hydrate well.
Mm-hmm.
So they're two completely different products.
Right. And when we say juice, is it just fruit?
Okay, so let's clarify, because I use fruit in the way that it should be used, not what we're necessarily used to. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of confusion about what a fruit is. Mm-hmm. And I think that's due to, our culinary arts and just marketing and things like that. But I define a fruit as the plant, the ovaries of a plant. Mm-hmm. So if you take a grapevine, for example, the ovaries of the plant would be the grapes, right? And the ovaries are always going to have seeds in them. And then anything else would be considered a vegetable. So the leaves, the stems, the roots, you know what I mean? Pretty much everything else is considered a vegetable, and then the ovaries of a plant. So what that means is tomatoes are fruit, avocados are fruit, cucumbers are fruit, eggplants are fruit,
Mm-hmm.
so on and so forth. And
Mm-hmm.
so you do not have to juice apples, oranges, peaches, pears. You could juice cucumbers, and you could do
Celery.
celery. Celery is it's very popular. A couple years ago, one of my members told me that all the celery was sold out in her local grocery store because someone had been promoting a celery juice cleanse or whatever. But yeah, you could juice. I mean, you could even juice leaves and things. The thing about juicing leaves is that the yield is so low on a leaf,
Yeah.
so you have to buy so much of it.
Mhm.
But you could certainly do. I mean, people juice ginger. They juice. You could juice.
Yeah, I grow my
any-
own wheatgrass, and the seed is cheap and it's abundant. Now, like you said, you get low juice yield, but
Right.
it's pretty easy to grow. And when you mix it with other, fruits, then you're fine as far as making your juice.
Exactly.
Yeah. So now you mentioned a healthy alternative. And do you also do like private consultations, or you just do presentations? How does that work?
Yeah, it's funny because I'm kind of developing different services and things as we go along based on the need.
Mm-hmm.
So I do offer 101 consultations.
Mm-hmm.
The consultations are not to be confused with coaching. I know there's a need for coaching, so I'm going to be developing a coaching program soon. But for right now, I offer consultations where you can, speak to me for 30 minutes, an hour, whatever the case may be, and we could talk about identifying the core issues, whether they're dietary, lifestyle, etc., and then how to address those issues. We talk about dietary strategies, fasting strategies, and then because of how I like to learn, I do my best to explain in depth everything that I'm telling an individual to do so they understand why they're doing it. I
Mm-hmm.
tend to find that that's much better for people to digest. I don't want to just tell you, hey, you should be drinking, do all this stuff to your water and drink a gallon a day. And people are like, but that sounds like a lot. I don't need to do that. I'll just go do this over here.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we get to do that one-on-one. And then I have an academy,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of like it's kind of like a social media platform.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a whole community there, and what I've done is develop courses where I elaborate more on preparation, different techniques, and then we also talk about outside of just fasting and dietary strategy. We talk about other healing modalities that I have found that I believe are very beneficial. And we talk a lot about water on there too,
Mm-hmm.
really learning how important water is, because it's like, the earth is 75% water, the body is 75 to 99% water, depending on how you look at it.
Mm-hmm.
And we start our life in amniotic fluid, which is like 95% water. And so nature is telling us that water is very important. So I like to emphasize that, during my teaching process.
Awesome. And so if someone wants to learn more about fasting and about alternative healthy ways of living, what are some ways that you offer? I know that you do the consultation, and then there's a Facebook group.
Yeah. So I've got quite a few platforms. You can pretty much find me anywhere. So we have YouTube, which is one of our premier platforms. It's called A Healthy Alternative. I've got over 200 videos on there, and I have playlists where, I've got playlists where you can kind of focus on different aspects of my information, whatever it is that kind of resonates with you.
Mm-hmm.
Then I've got the website, ahealthyalternative.org, where it's kind of like a hub where you can access many of my other platforms through there. You can also access the Academy through there, through my courses tab. You could also go to the Academy directly by going to ahafastingacademy.com. And then we have the Facebook group, which is A Healthy Alternative on Facebook. I also have an essential oils group on Facebook called AHA Essential Oils. And, we primarily focus on talking about the benefits of essential oils or herbs, which is, really, in my opinion, nature's medicine. And I'm really blown away by how powerful the herbs are, and the essential oils are the lifeblood of a plant. And then lastly, we have an Instagram page that I'm actually looking to increase the followers on there. And that's a.healthy.alternative on Instagram.
Awesome. We might have to have you back to talk about essential oils.
Yes, I've been blown away by the essential oils. I couldn't believe that. I only just learned about the power of them about 8 months ago, and I'm so in love with the information.
Awesome. I just wanted to touch on one more thing. You talked about, you just stated a gallon a day, and we've heard that, and we've heard yes, we've heard no through media and different people. What's your take on that, on the gallon a day?
There's a reason why you hear a gallon a day so much. And it's not necessarily that you need a gallon of water a day. The problem, it goes back to what I said earlier, is that we're drinking bulk water. The body will only process about 3% of the water we drink. That's why you could drink a gallon of water a day and still be dehydrated. So I think the reason that people promote a gallon of water a day is because the more volume you're taking in, that percentage equates to more hydration. So if you're hydrating efficiently, you don't have to drink as much. But even I still recommend a gallon because we're not hydrating efficiently. We're not doing these things. And you consider your audience. You're speaking to a large group of people from various backgrounds and different resources. So, the gallon of water a day has been proven to be very beneficial to individuals, whether you're drinking distilled water or filtered water, although we still do recommend the distilled water. It's been the most kind of potent or powerful. But the key is to remember that even with drinking a gallon, you really got to be sipping your water slowly. The body will only absorb about 16 ounces an hour. The rest you're just going to pee out. Oh. So you need to, we all know if you just down a half gallon of water, you just went on a run or whatever the case may be, it won't be long before you're in the bathroom. Right. If you take your time, the first thing in the morning, you have yourself maybe 16 ounces to get going, because we lose so much water in our breath at night. And then throughout the day, every hour or two, you just kind of sip on about 16 ounces every hour or two. You'll get the gallon in really, really easy. It won't be difficult. You won't have to go to the bathroom as much, which indicates that you are actually absorbing that water. And so it's not a hassle. And what I found is after you're consistent with this process, you do get to a point where you are well hydrated and you don't require nearly as much water. And then you can kind of go based off of, how you feel. So, yeah. And
like you said, there's a difference between hydrating with water straight off the shelf and water that's gone through the process that you do with your water.
Yeah, they're two completely different products. I mean, yeah, it'd be like comparing tea and coffee. There's two completely different products. We think water is water. All water is created equal. For those who think that all water is created equal, because I have friends who kind of will argue with me about this, get a distiller. Most places will allow you a 30-day money-back guarantee or something like that. Get you a distiller and test for yourself. And put your tap water in the distiller And then at the bottom of this distiller, look at what you have left over and tell me if that's not the most disgusting thing. You end up with this water that smells putrid. It looks like orange or like I don't know, like an orangish reddish color. And then what you'll find is after you've run your distiller several times, you'll find that it starts to create a calcium buildup in the bottom of the distiller. And these are just all indicators of what's in the water that we're drinking every single day. This is also why you could take a shower and feel dried out. You know, that whole idea of hard water, that's not just something. Like that's real. Like that there's something wrong with your water. There's something in there that doesn't belong in there. Calcium and different minerals are causing you to feel dried out. It also clogs up your plumbing, and you'll find the lime and rust building up in your toilet and all of this stuff we have to pay attention to. This is all in your water. You're then drinking that. And then what do you think is happening in your body? The same way that the rust builds up on the toilet, or the, lime builds up, or the scale builds up, or whatever the case may be, that happens in your body. Your body's elimination pathways are clogged, and then disease starts to set in. So,
yeah. All right. Well, this has been a very informative talk, and I appreciate you taking the time to share this knowledge with us.
Absolutely. It's been my pleasure.
All right. Well, thank you again, and hopefully we'll see you again to talk about some oils.
Hey, I'm available.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Zen'n'ish copyrighted podcast and website represent the opinions of Dr. Lakeisha Hudson, Dr. Kiki Zen'n'ish Incorporated, and or her guests. The content here should not be taken as medical, psychological, or any other advice. The content here is for informational purposes only. Please consult your healthcare professional for any medical, mental, or health concerns. Views and opinions expressed in the podcast and website are Dr. Hudson's and or her guests and do not represent that of their places of work. While we make every effort to ensure that the information we are sharing is accurate, we welcome any comments, suggestions, or correction of errors. All people and places mentioned in the podcast have been changed to protect confidentiality. This podcast or website should not be used in any legal capacity whatsoever. No guarantee is given regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on the podcast or website. In no way does listening, reading, emailing, or interacting on social media with our content establish a doctor-patient relationship. If you find any errors in any of the content of the podcast or blogs, please send an email to 423.4.dr.kiki@gmail.com.